As students of voice, we want to see ourselves moving forward and getting better. We want to like our sound better, and we want to find ourselves doing things with our voices that we weren't able to do weeks, months, years ago. But there are some habits and attitudes and mistakes that can stall our progress and that can even completely derail us, preventing us from reaching our goals. So today I want to list 8 common reasons why you might not be progressing as well as you'd like to be. Now, the first reason why you might not be making progress is that you're not practicing the right way. We often hear from well-meaning individuals on singing forums and even in our own living rooms that practice makes perfect. But if we're being truly realistic, practice makes progress is a little bit more accurate, but I digress. So we're told and are often convinced that if only we practice enough, we will eventually reach our singing goals. And I call this the repetition deception, this idea that we're deceived into believing that if only we practice enough, if only we sing that exercise enough times, if only we practice that song enough times, if only we wash, rinse, and repeat enough, we will necessarily reach our goals. And the problem with this is that those well-meaning individuals fail to qualify the word practice. What kind of practice are we talking about here? Because the kind of practice that we're doing determines to a large extent the kind of progress that we make, if we make any at all. So it's not enough to simply practice, 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 practice. We can practice, 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 practice until we're blue in the face and not improve. Because we need to make sure that we're practicing correctly. Because if we're not practicing correctly, the right way, we will not make progress. Now, this isn't to suggest that there's just one program or one method out there that we need to subscribe to in order to receive correct guidance. But there are ways of using our bodies that are more mechanically advantageous than other ways. And I always like to tell singers that our bodies have a natural design and that we need to work with that design, not against it. But if the ways in which we're using our body instruments are causing them to have to sort of fight within themselves, then not only are we going to not make progress, but we're also going to risk premature wear and tear on the instrument as well as injury, which will most certainly derail us. So when we're practicing, it's absolutely imperative that we are mindful about how we're practicing. It's not enough to simply practice, 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 practice. And again, there isn't just one right way. There are many techniques that could be considered safe and healthy and artistically effective. But we need to make sure that our practice times are focused and mindful and smart. And we need to base our technique on correct physiological and acoustical assumptions so that our bodies are not always fighting within themselves. Well, the second reason why you might not be making progress in your singing is that you're not practicing the right things. Now, maybe you're working with a teacher who hasn't correctly diagnosed the root causes of your vocal troubles, or maybe you're working on learning to sing entirely on your own. But if you don't know what is going wrong on a functional level, then you won't know what you need to fix. And maybe you don't have the tools or the exercises to develop those skills or to fix those vocal faults. When we're performing exercises, we need to make sure that those exercises are designed to meet our specific needs. And of course, we need to execute them properly with good technique. Now, the third reason why you might not be making progress is you're not putting in the time. As a busy mother of 4 young children who seldom has time for herself, I'm a little bit guilty of this too. And ordinarily, I would stress quality over quantity. But with all skills in life that we want to learn, we have to put in the necessary time in order to change old habits and build new ones. It takes time to successfully and fully integrate new coordination and habits into our working technique and to make new behaviors stick with any degree of consistency. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to practice 3 hours a day. For most of us, that's simply not realistic. But we do need to put in the necessary time in order to develop these new habits, to build new muscle memory, to make sure that we're able to apply those skills with consistency and with reliability. It's not enough to casually sing some songs or to mindlessly sing a few exercises a couple times a week. We can't expect to make real significant progress if we're not putting in the necessary time. Now, the fourth reason why you might not be seeing the kind of progress that you'd like to be seeing is that you're getting in your own way. Now here I am really referring to how we think and feel about singing and the voice. I'm talking about the pressures that we place on ourselves to be better, the impatience that we have with ourselves, the anxiety that we have about not reaching our goals, the negative self-talk, the self-sabotage, the frustration and discouragement that we allow to take hold of us. Many of us are end results driven as opposed to process oriented. And so we're preoccupied with where our voices should be, where we want them to be, where they aren't yet. And that can really set us up for feeling like we're failing. And those feelings of inferiority, those fears of failure, actually stem from the fact that our focus is on comparison, on comparing where we are right now with where we want to be, with where we feel we should be, but are not yet. And that kind of misplaced focus can actually sabotage our progress. It can make it so that our bodies are unable to coordinate effectively because we've got all of these thoughts and emotions that are impeding our body's ability to be able to coordinate effectively. And so instead, we need to be a little bit more process oriented, a little bit more in the moment, a little bit more focused on the progress that we're making incrementally from day to day, week to week, month to month, and not projecting too far ahead, too far into the future, and definitely not comparing where we want to be. And also, we need to stop comparing ourselves to other singers. That kind of comparison is detrimental to our mental well-being. And so we need to become process-oriented. We need to let go of those unrealistic expectations, those self-imposed pressures, that comparison that merely feed the negative counterproductive thoughts that really get in our way of being able to move forward, to free our minds and to free our bodies, to make the kinds of sounds that we really want to be able to make. The fifth reason why you might not be moving forward is that you're overthinking matters. I have worked with a number of singers over the years who so desperately want to improve their singing skills that they research and research and research, and then they attempt to apply everything that they've learned about the singing voice, how it works, and how to train it to their own singing. And they begin to micromanage every aspect of their technique to the point where they don't allow their bodies to sort of just coordinate intuitively. They're unable to connect mind and body. Now, I'm a nerd and a geek, and I usually encourage singers to know their body instruments, to acquire accurate information about how they're constructed and how they're designed to function. But there comes a point at which we need to turn off our academic, overthinking, consciously controlling minds, the minds that are attempting to override coordination that's natural and otherwise intuitive, and turn on our artistic, feeling, freeing selves. We have to just sometimes let go and trust that our bodies know what to do. The sixth reason why you might not be making progress is you're not taking risks. If you're always guarding your sound, if you're always afraid of making mistakes, if you're always holding back because you're afraid of sounding bad or doing something incorrectly, if you always baby your instrument and overprotect it, if you consistently under-energize your sound, underestimating the amount of effort that is required for artistic singing, then you're not giving yourself permission to fully explore and play your instrument. If you're only ever playing cautiously and playing your instrument the same way every time, then you're actually holding yourself back. Now, of course, we need to take calculated risks. We don't want to simply throw caution to the wind and abandon mindfulness and ignore everything that we know about good technical practices in the body's natural design. We still need to train our voices wisely. But sometimes we unwittingly hold ourselves back by being unwilling to take a leap of faith and to trust that our bodies will know what to do and to trust that they can handle the demands that we're placing on them. The seventh reason why you might not be moving forward in your training is that you're too aesthetics driven. Now, I don't think I've ever met a single singer who actually wants his or her voice to sound unpleasant. However, if we're strictly focused on how things sound, then we will tend to try to manipulate that sound in sometimes unhealthy ways. So instead, we need to be a little bit more function oriented, ensuring that the ways in which we're using our instruments are healthy and sustainable and optimal and efficient. And when the instrument is functioning optimally, then the sound starts to follow. The sound is usually pleasant as a result. So try not placing the cart ahead of the horse. And the eighth reason why you might not be making progress is you're not taking good care of yourself. Self-care is just as critical for the singer as it is for the serious athlete. You need to be hydrating well, eating well, getting adequate rest, taking precautions against illness, resting your voice when necessary, and exercising good technical practices. We can't mistreat our bodies and somehow expect them to operate optimally and to do the things that we want them to do. If we were cars, we would require routine maintenance. We would need oil changes and air filter changes and tire rotations and the occasional vacuuming up of all the goldfish that's squished between the seats and crushed all over the floor. Our bodies are machines, and so they need continued maintenance and care in order to function optimally. So in sum, we need to have realistic expectations when it comes to our progress, and we need to base those expectations on a number of factors, including how we're practicing, how much we're practicing, whether or not we're practicing the right kinds of things, whether or not we're getting the right kind of guidance, how we're maintaining our body instruments, what's going on up here and here that might be impeding our progress. And if we still find ourselves kind of stalled, then that might be the time to enlist the help of a good, qualified singing teacher who can help to steer us in the right direction and help us get out of that rut. Alright, thank you so much for watching today. I really hope this video was informative and encouraging at the same time. Please feel free to let me know what you think of it by leaving a comment in the comment section below. Also, clicking the thumbs up button, that would be very much appreciated. And also, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to this channel so that you'll be notified every time I post new videos. Thanks for watching.